Hey guys, so I recently traveled from Geneva to Lyon by train, which took just a couple of hours, between 2 to 3 hours to get there, and it was a wonderful trip. Now, this is my first time doing any kind of travel vlog, and another jab at YouTube, but what I really want to show you guys is what it looks like walking around town, some views of Old Town, including some of the hidden passageways that it's really famous for. And it's a little bit disjointed, so I'll be talking through a lot of the things that you're seeing. Previously was when we got off the train and we went directly to the subway. Google Maps works just fine, and when you want to purchase train tickets, it's quite easy. You can use Apple Pay or I guess any kind of credit card reader that you've stored onto your phone, or credit cards as well. I have at the end of the video I'm going to show you what it looks like to actually purchase these tickets, what these machines look like. But as soon as you get off the train and try to get into the subway, it's pretty straightforward. Once you get off, it's going to lead you out into the main town, which is east of the Old Town, which is a lot of where the tourist sites are. So we already got off the subway, and it was maybe about a 10-minute walk to our hotel, which was right before we crossed the bridge into Old Town itself. Now, if you look at a map of this area of Lyon, you'll see that there's really what looks like an island because it's between two parts of a river, and this is the center part of the river where a lot of the shopping, a lot of the activity of downtown is going on. From what we saw, I'm sure there are a lot more areas, but as you can see from this view, there's a cathedral up top, which was a beautiful hike. Although get ready if you're going to be walking up, which a lot of us did because the tram was down. It's a wonderful cardio exercise, but be prepared. Wear your walking shoes and don't dress for looks, dress for comfort, because I felt bad for a lot of people who were going up there. Now, these are other views of the town as we're walking around. As you can tell, they're just some general retail stores. And I kind of cut around because we're just walking up north and south of town. We wanted to go food shopping for some Korean food that's cheaper in France. And we also just wanted to see what it looked like. And sorry about the flickering of lights. I recorded this in a setting where a lot of LED lights flicker. And I think moving forward, I'll probably change that to a different setting so that doesn't bother as much. But as you can tell, we're just walking around town. Again, Google Maps worked really fine for us. Just make sure you have data that's available to you. We switched over because we're currently in Geneva to a European provider, but I presume if you have at least 4G with your network, it should be okay. If you're not sure, I would definitely recommend downloading an app like Airalo, and I'll spell that out right here, which was recommended to me by, I think it was the Travel Points guy or something like that, but I'm trying it out right now. I'm testing it on a different phone, and so far seems to be working really well, and you can get data across different countries by region. Anyways, I wish I knew more about some of these buildings that I was walking by, but for this one, we're walking directly west towards the bridge that you can walk across to get to Old Town. Now, with Lyon, it was really easy to access everything by foot. If you don't mind walking so much, it's not too bad. You can actually walk the full length of Old Town, maybe in about 30 minutes. You know, it's not a direct number, but it's more to kind of show you and let you know that you don't need a car. You don't have to get an Uber. It's all accessible if the weather's okay. And far off, that cathedral, the Basilisk, I think is what it's called. I'll have to look that up and write it across the recording here for you. It overlooks the entire town of Lyon, and it's a beautiful path. Now, I cut right here to the bridge, but it's a big, bold red bridge that you'll see immediately if you're visiting Lyon. And this is the bridge that I recommend that you take to enter into Old Town. Old Town, there's a lot to see that you can totally do in a weekend. I know there's a lot more to Lyon than what I saw in the major part of town, but we went to two main parts, which was Old Town, and then if you go up next to the cathedral, there's a lot of ruins from the Roman Empire. Now, this part of town has a lot of history. I can't remember it from memory, but I'll probably cut into a voiceover part where I talk a little bit about Lyon and its rich history going back 2,000, 3,000 years. And you get to see a lot of the historical Roman influence, which is really cool. And the museum was really affordable, amazingly laid out. I can probably recommend that you go there, especially if you're going to the cathedral on top of the hill. The architecture was amazing. Everything looked amazing. You can see what a Colosseum looked like, which I'll show you in a little bit. But right now we're getting to the main part of Old Town. There are about one or two streets that are primarily, I guess they run north and south, and it serves as the main conduits, the main avenues for exploring the Old Town. Here again, it's such a beautiful place to visit because all these little shops, crooks and crannies of different types of retail stores, food, restaurants. Some of the best food in France is probably in Lyon, and I totally felt that when I got there. I think with Lyon, it's coined itself as the gastronomic city of France, and we've been to Paris, my wife and I, and we enjoyed Paris, but we didn't really feel like the food there was stellar or superb. A lot of the restaurants were serving similar things on their menu, and it felt very touristy and commercialized, versus here it felt a lot more like the people who own these restaurants cared deeply about the art of food. Now, this is another cathedral in the main part of town, and I made a completely separate video just because it was at this cathedral, not on top of the hill, but in Old Town, where we saw pickpocketers, 3 young ladies, really just attacking, well, through the way of pickpocketing, solo traveler, which was really shocking to me. I didn't even notice it because my wife and I, we were just really taken aback by how beautiful the cathedral was, which we went into later. But yeah, it was quite shocking to see pickpocketing. So if you're ever in any part of Europe, or really any part of the world, it could be in the US, of course, as well, just make sure if you're traveling by yourself that you're really aware of crowded areas where people are pushing up against you, because that was the prime time where these young ladies who looked like tourists, who didn't look like your typical thief or what you envision as someone who's a bad actor, and it was really shocking to see that. Anyways, we don't go into the cathedral right now. We keep walking around Old Town looking for these hidden passages. Now, at first, what was really frustrating with the hidden passages was that there was a map that I was using which looked a bit outdated, but at the same time, it was free, it was available. I didn't need to pay for a guide, which I would highly suggest if you are in town and you want to make sure you enjoy all of it, because I'm sure there are parts that we missed. But as you can see, we're walking up and down these streets. These are all north and south. And what we're looking for are doors that look really inconspicuous. They don't have any particular markings on them. They look more basic, but then there are times where you might see a little plaque on the side of the door that mentions how this is a part of the passages, the hidden secret passages in Old Town. Now, we were following that map and we were going up this street here. I can write down the name if I look back at Google Maps, and I'll write that in the video here. But we're continuing to look for the doors. Now, the annoying part for us, we came during off-peak season for traveling. This was back, I believe, in February of 2024. And I would say about half the passages for the hidden passageways throughout Old Town were closed for construction. And it made sense because probably they're being renovated or made sure to be kept clean for when there's peak tourist season. And I would say that's probably towards spring and summertime. But there were a couple that were still open that we were able to find, which I'll fast forward to those parts shortly. But yeah, just keep in mind, if you're going to be visiting Old Town off-peak season, there's a good chance that half of the passageways are closed or under construction. And the other part is that I'm not even sure, because I wasn't there during peak season time. I'm not even sure I can fully say that they'll be open during the spring or the summer. Anyways, so with that out of the way, it's a fun little trip, a little journey that you can try and look for these hidden passages. They're clearly marked on this map that I used. And if you're kind of familiar with looking at map or a Google Maps, you can find it pretty simply by looking at the street names. And again, because Old Town isn't that big, it's an area that you can walk around quite comfortably. And I guarantee you, within a day of walking, you'll be quite familiar with the town. There's also some coffee shops and some bakeries that I highly recommend that I can list, which I wish, oh my gosh, I really wish I captured those for you. And maybe next time I go with my wife, we'll capture more content at these coffee shops and at the bakery and the restaurant. But right now I was more focused on walking around town, making sure that we had the footage to show whoever wanted to visit Lyon what it looked like and what to prepare for. So right here is when we get to one of the hidden passages. And the crazy part is that people actually live here. And back, I can't remember when the agreement was, but the city agreed with the tenants who lived in these secret passageways to allow people to come and visit with the understanding and agreement that all the tourists would be quiet and be respectful. And these signs are around these doors, not all of them, but be aware that some people actually live here, and be respectful of that. Don't make it a mess, and try your best to enjoy the views, but at the same time know that people are living here, and probably hundreds if not thousands of people are passing by during peak season. Anyways, it's a lot of fun. It's beautiful. It's really quiet. As you can see, my wife and I, we're just kind of walking around. We're observing what felt really rustic, ancient, beautiful, and it was just a lot of fun, because if you look into some of the history of why these hidden passages were created, it was mainly for trade and commerce. Because of these really big avenues that went north and south, you had more of these passages that went between buildings that allowed for quick and easy access to a lot of the people who were working here. I forget which trade in particular. I think it had something to do with garment and manufacturing fabrics, something along those lines. But yeah, a guide will definitely know all the little details that would be really entertaining. And apparently during some part of war, these passageways were also used. So there's more history there that you can read up on before you go, and also with a guide that I'm sure that they would be able to tell you with a lot of detail. Now, as we got out of the first hidden passageway that we found, it leads you right to another north and south facing street, and we're basically zigzagging between these streets trying to find the next one. And it's a great way to get to know the city. You see all these little shops that you pass by as you're looking for these hidden passageways. So that was a lot of fun. But right here you can see Boulangerie du Palais on your right, which is a bakery you have to go to. They have these praline treats that a lot of bakeries actually in town have, and it's actually the treat that Lyon is known for, where basically they all look red, but they're artificially colored, and they're amazing. They taste absolutely beautiful. Again, I didn't capture the footage of me walking into it, buying it, which snacks I bought, but if you look on Google Maps, you'll see all the pictures, and they're so affordable. That was the crazy part. The biggest cookies, the biggest breads you can buy for $2 to $3. Or 2 to 3 euros, which I'm used to. If you lived in New York City, a nice chunky cookie would be $5 to $7, which sounds insane, but it's an experience. But here, they were absolutely affordable. If I go back, I'm buying a dozen, which will probably weigh 10 pounds or more, maybe even 15 pounds, just to carry around these cookies to give to friends and family, or, back in Geneva, friends. Every restaurant we passed by the way, this was during lunchtime, was packed. You have to make reservations. So keep in mind when you visit Lyon to make reservations for any restaurant that you want to go to way ahead of time, just because every single restaurant in this part of town was fully booked. I don't know exactly, of course, each restaurant. We only went to one, my wife and I, and it was completely packed by the time we left. Literally, there was no space to walk. It was tremendously packed to the brim, and the food was amazing. I like to eat a lot of food. I'm definitely more of a quantity over quality kind of guy. And I was shocked for the price of, I think it was 30 euros per person. I was absolutely stuffed, and my wife can attest to it. I eat a ton of food. I can just eat maybe 2,000 to 3,000 calories in one sitting. And of course, we eat a lot of bread beforehand, but it was just absolutely amazing how much food that they served. I can't say that for every restaurant, but I'll write down in the notes below which restaurant we went to, which I would give 5 out of 5, would highly recommend. Also, just keep in mind, being I think it's the second or third largest city in France, it would be good for you to know French. So maybe try to touch up a little bit, because they appreciate probably the fact that you would actually try. But real quick, right there, that was another hidden door that was locked. We couldn't enter it. And so what we ended up doing in that case is before I show you what I did, there was a little corner here which was really peaceful and quiet. It's surprising, just a block away from the main streets. It's tremendously quiet and a really nice, pleasant place. So at this point, because that hidden door was locked, we wanted to walk parallel to what the hidden pathway would have been. And in order to do that, we simply just look at the map, figure out which street is parallel along the hidden passageway, and walk towards the big alleys that I talked about that go north and south. And here we are. After walking what should have been a really short hidden passageway, we're back at one of the main streets that run north and south. And again, we were pretty intent on trying to find every hidden passageway. It felt a lot like a game, so it was a lot of fun. And so just to show you more of what the town looked like and what the street looked like, and this was off-peak season. Look at all these people who are in town, just enjoying Old Town and the restaurants. And in my opinion, I can't imagine what this would look like. Let's say it's June or July, just with a ton of people walking around. Now, without getting too redundant, basically as we walk down, it's a lot of fun just to see all the different types of stores, but always be very wary of pickpocketers. You want to make sure that it's not necessarily people who look like bad actors. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but the first time I saw in my life was those 3 young women, which I'll show you briefly as we get to that part of town. Now, we just passed the bakery that I had mentioned earlier, Palais, which is on our left right now. And so we're heading back down south because I think we had missed one of the passageways we were looking for. And so we take a left here, which is heading back east towards the river that runs north and south. And there were 2 more sets of hidden passageways that we were looking for that ran closer to the river. And here you can see that big building straight ahead of us. That's on the other side of the river. And what we did was we took the next left here, which is the street before the river that runs parallel along the river itself. And there were a couple of hidden passageways that we were keen to find along this path. And we were able to find one, but at this time it was clear to us that a lot of them looked quite similar, with really nice lighting and really quiet, quaint, and it almost felt like we were playing hide and go seek in the middle of town, and we were able to hide along these passageways. But it was a lot of fun, and it's a great way for you to explore the city at the same time of trying to find these hidden passageways. So we thought the black doors to our right before was one of them, but this one was actually open and we didn't see any markers or plaques, and we decided to just walk in right ahead. And again, just being cautious or being thoughtful of the people who live here. The lights turned on automatically for us and we just kept on walking. And the really cool part was a lot of these small squares in the center that opened up all the way to the sky. So a lot of natural lighting for this one, but as you can quickly see, this was a short one that you can explore, and all the other entrances were gated off and locked, so we weren't able to see the other pathways, if they even were pathways at all. But right behind me was another locked one that we just walked past, and we weren't actually able to get to the other side of the street. From here, we had to go all the way back to the street we came from and keep on exploring. And that's the gate that was locked. Probably not a place to go to. And right here I cut to a part where we're walking along the river itself, heading north. The map had showed us that there was one more that was on the right, or I'm sorry, on the left. But I cut to that because I thought we couldn't find it, but we were fortunate to be able to walk in. And as you can see, again, mailboxes on our right, very well lit. The ceiling patterns are gorgeous, but these pathways are really narrow, so a lot of times you have to be wary when there are multiple people, especially people passing you, that you had to stand up against the wall to let them pass, and vice versa. But this one I'm surprised we found because there was no one else here, and this door here you see for this hidden passageway was one we tried earlier but was actually locked. So we were surprised when we got here. We recognized immediately where it was once we were outside, but I don't know if we should have been able to access this from the outside street along the river. But here we are back in the middle of Old Town again, along one of the major avenues, which is a lot of fun. And right there you say private property, so perhaps it wasn't a hidden passageway, but it very much looked like one, and perhaps again during the busy season. So this is actually the pickpocketing incident that I was able to catch on camera. We went back to the cathedral to check it out, but that young lady that just went into frame, that's her, along with that lady, the other girl in the pink scarf. They're both pickpocketers. I couldn't understand until my wife pointed it out. But you see how right here, they're slowing him down, people are coming out, and she has her hands on the bag, on his backpack, trying to open it, especially right here. And she must not have seen my camera because it was so small, but she's putting her hand in, or trying to. He feels something and looks around, and basically she pretends like, aren't you trying to get in? Like, I'm excited to see. But my wife saw the whole thing, and we were able to stop him, let him know that these girls were trying to steal something. And it was really jarring. I could not believe that happened right in front of us and that we caught it on camera. It's something that I would highly recommend. Again, I can't stress enough, protect your belongings, make sure that nothing happens. I'm glad that we were able to capture their faces, and also help him from being pickpocketed itself. So yeah, be on guard. I wasn't sure, but I think looking back, watching this footage again, that's absolutely what happened, and we were all a bit flustered. Anyway, so we're now inside the cathedral, inside of Old Town, And here I won't talk as much because I actually didn't do any research into the history here, but the views are absolutely stunning. And you can just feel the history here, how rich it was. It's something that I would definitely recommend if you're in town to go check out, look at. It's a quick look. I don't think there's any ways to actually go up on the cathedral itself, I mean vertically up. But you can do a quick walk around, maybe 10-15 minutes, and of course it was really quiet, so we recommend that you respect that as well. And with that said, the rest of this footage is me walking around the cathedral. And if you've watched up until here, thanks so much for joining me. I did this voice recording off the cuff and based off of what I remembered. I'll try and go back and put some text, relevant text, like for example the name of this cathedral, into the videos. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much for watching. I hope that this helped show a little bit more of what Lyon looks like. This was a good experience for me, and you know, the coming videos that I'll be making as I travel around Europe, trying my best to show you how to get around town, what town looks like. And again, I mentioned earlier in the video that I would post videos of what the ticket purchasing thing looked like, and this is just part 1 of Lyon. I'm gonna have a part 2 also, which shows you what the machines actually look like. No, I actually don't record the cathedral up on the hill just because we were so exhausted trying to get there. But we do actually capture the Roman Museum, the Colosseum up top on the hill, and how awesome that looked. And I'll also be sharing some of that. But I would love your feedback. If my voiceover was helpful, definitely let me know. If I talked a little too much, also let me know. If you want more details, I can definitely do that as well. But I've always wanted to find videos of walkthroughs of towns and also how-tos that were incorporated too. This is something I'm working on, and I'm glad to provide more and more footage as I learn and move along and travel. But if you watch this, again, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the views in this cathedral. See you in the next one.